Society needs one profession charged with documenting reality. If we're going to do a good job of governing ourselves, we need representations that are neither hidden in shadows nor painted by hype. Denny Elliott.
At the age of 23, J. Ross Baughman was awarded the 1978 Pulitzer Prize for feature photography of the guerrilla war in Rhodesia. His photos of this war were seen as controversial by most because of their graphic depictions of human rights abuse. As a photojournalist, Baughman acted ethically even though his photos show violence.
The white minority government of the former Republic of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, declared independence from the United Kingdom in 1965, maintaining a system of oppressive rule over the African people. Black Africans had been subjected to such rule since the arrival of Europeans in 1890. By 1972, a guerrilla war against the white rule by the Zimbabwe African People's Union and the Zimbabwe African National Union had grown intense.
Baughman, then a photographer for the Associated Press, traveled with the Rhodesian cavalry into the country's interior, where he photographed the troops slaughtering villagers. His photos of white brutality in Rhodesia may have won him the Pulitzer Prize for feature photography, but it brought him much criticism and was considered controversial. Why was Baughman criticized for doing his job as a photojournalist? Why did people think he was insensitive for simply documenting the war?
Many people felt that Baughman showed no compassion by simply standing behind the camera. They thought that Baughman could have made a difference by helping the subjects of his photos avoid their death. By applying Gary Bryant's checklist for a photojournalist, we intend to support Baughman's actions by examining the allegations of the unethicality of Baughman's photos and disputing them.
Gary Bryant's checklist asks these 4 questions about the ethicality of photojournalism. 1. Should this moment be made public? 2. Will being photographed send the subject into further trauma? 3. Am I at least intrusive distance possible? 4. Am I acting with compassion and sensitivity?
Should this moment have been made public? Yes, because the public has a right to be shown the reality of their world. For this situation, the public's right to know was based upon the need to expose the brutality towards Africans by the Rhodesian army. By showing the public these images, similar injustices could be prevented.
Will being photographed send the subject into further trauma? No, because those being photographed were already in a situation in which their lives were at the hands of a brutal military. The trauma experienced throughout years of white brutality and during the war was more traumatic than the experience of being photographed. Whether these photos traumatize the audience or not, the fact that they cause a reaction is intentional and good. Having a reaction from the audience will allow change to take place.
Am I at the least intrusive distance possible? The concept of intrusive distances is completely situational. War itself is a raw experience in which people are already being intruded upon. Baughman was not intruding as much as soldiers were. He was shooting with a camera rather than a gun. Although the camera was not used directly in the situation to stop the killing, it served another purpose of bringing awareness of the war.
Am I acting with compassion and sensitivity? Baughman said, I would have been able to make the soldiers feel inhibited. I could have said, gee fellows, do you think this is necessary? It would have been possible for me to poke my head into the next hut and shoo the people out the back. These statements by Baughman caused controversy among the public, and many thought he was not compassionate.
John Long argues against Baughman's expressed lack of desire to help the villagers in the photos. My job is to observe life, but this does not relieve me of my obligation as a human being to stand up for what I believe is right. My presence makes me a participant whether I like it or not. John Long.
It's not that Baughman wasn't a participant. It's that he participated behind the camera with a different set of ideals. Compassion behind the camera is different than compassion elsewhere. Baughman's photographs were taken for the greater good. In this sense, his actions can be considered utilitarian, meaning that even though he did not prevent harm from being done in front of him, he wanted to put an end to the greater brutality. For this reason, the criticisms brought against him are not convincing.
Journalists should be free from prosecution when they witness crimes, and instead be praised for their willingness to put their own physical and psychic safety aside to provide a look at the underbelly of life. Denny Elliott.
Baughman believed that what was right as a human being was to document the plight of these people. He was fulfilling his obligation as a photojournalist by staying neutral.
Society needs journalists who put professional duty before their desire to help. Denny Elliott.
Baughman believed that interfering with the subjects of his photos would hurt his purpose for being there. Baughman saw his role as a documenter of reality, and solely that. If he had interacted with the people of his photos, he would have altered the reality in front of him, and he wouldn't have had a picture to take.